Welcome to the NCDWI Guide podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NCDWI guy, Jake Minnick.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to episode 157 of the NCDWI Guy podcast. On today's episode, we are talking about a serious topic, a topic that impacts a lot of people in the law profession, a lot of people in the criminal defense bar. Stress, anxiety, frustration, all of these things can lead to burnout in the legal profession. And so that's what we're going to talk about on today's episode. And then I'm also going to talk through what causes burnout, in my opinion, or some of the primary sources for burnout, as well as practical solutions for avoiding burnout. And I think that you, if you apply these solutions, you'll not only avoid burnout, but you're going to find a lot more joy in the practice of law. And really, the goal for us as we walk through this together is not to just avoid burnout. It is to experience true joy in the practice of law. This noble, amazing, wonderful blessing of a profession that we get to be involved in. So I want to first of all make a disclaimer. I am not a mental health professional. And so if you are experiencing a really a difficult time, definitely reaching out to somebody that is in the mental health field is something I would strongly encourage. I would also like to recommend reaching out to the NC Lawyer Assistance Program, the NC LAP program. If you go to nclap.org, you will find all kinds of great resources and contacts, and it's free to give them a call and get something set up. So I think it is an underutilized program for lawyers within our state. So again, if this is a scenario where there is a real high stress, anxiety level, what I'm about to talk through is not meant to replace mental health assistance. So go check that out. Also, I did a great episode with Holden Clark on mental health for the DUI defender. That is back on episode 65. So go take a listen to that episode. I think Holden had a lot of great ideas for lawyers to avoid burnout and to really, again, experience joy in their practice. So let's begin with this. Where does burnout come from? Well, it is often said that the law is a jealous mistress, right? That it's going to occupy a lot of your time. And so let me start with a myth of where burnout comes from. I believe that time or spending too much time in the profession is a myth in terms of what causes burnout. Somebody that is working from 8 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, maybe that's causing burnout, but not necessarily. And so I think that there is this idea that working 70, 80, 90 hours a week is not mentally healthy. This may not be a perfect work-life balance in terms of where are you kind of giving yourself, if you've got a family, if you've got other commitments, or you're working part-time for a nonprofit, whatever the situation might be. If you're spending 90 hours a week working on the law, you may be neglecting your physical health, your mental health, your family, your spiritual well-being. And so again, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the right move, but I think it's actually a myth that working a 70, 80, 90 hour a week is causing burnout. And the reason why is this: there are lawyers that I have seen over the years that really put their entire heart and soul. And I've seen this both on the prosecutorial end, I've seen it with judges, I've seen it with defense attorneys that put their heart and soul completely into the law, but they get their joy from that. They could think of nothing more interesting than talking the law, than meeting with a client, than taking a case to trial and working, a ridiculous trial week. This is where their passion comes from. And so again, I think it is a myth that time itself, or the amount of time spent in the law, is what causes burnout. And I think we look at certain people in the profession that are, working too much, and you can see the stress. So it can be a problem, but I think that there is a deeper issue going on when you see somebody that appears to be burned out and is working round the clock. There are other issues going on, which we're going to talk through. I think there are, again, lawyers that can be working these long weeks where they get their passion, they get their joy, if you want to go that far with it, from trying cases, preparing for cases, meeting with clients, being in the courtroom. This is where their passion is driven from. So again, I think that that's a myth. So we're going to talk about 3 places today that I believe that burnout stems from. The first is task burnout. The second is people burnout. And the third is purpose burnout. Task burnout, people burnout, and purpose burnout. So we'll start with task burnout. And so here's a question for you. Where do you spend your time? Where do you spend your time? If you are driving, if you're listening to this as you exercise, or are commuting from one courthouse to the next, getting ready to take care of some more traffic tickets, this would be a good place to pause and identify your daily, weekly, and monthly tasks. What do you do on a daily, weekly, monthly repeat basis, and then assign an amount of hours that you spend on that task: answering emails, returning client calls, sitting in the courtroom, reading case law, working on my phone system, fixing this particular fire, dealing with payroll issues, whatever it might be, working on the trust account. Identify all of the places where you spend your time on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, and then try to assign a particular amount of hours that you are spending on those tasks. Now, once you've done that, once you've figured out where you are spending your time, here is the mental thought process that I want you to walk through. We're going to ask ourselves 2 questions about each task. Am I engaged by this task? Is it important to me? So is this something that I enjoy doing, that I get joy out of? So however you want to phrase that, do I get joy out of this task? Am I engaged by this task? Is it important to me? That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, am I good at this task? So is it important to me? And number 2, am I good at it? Now, in the rare event that both of those are a yes, then you want to put a number 1 next to that task. So identify that as a 1. If it is important to you, but you're not good at it, then put a number 2 by that. If it is important, or if it's not important to you, but you are good at it, then put a number 3. And if it is something that you're neither good at nor enjoy doing, then put a number 4 by that. This exercise is extremely powerful. We do it at the office on a regular basis. We've probably done it 3 or 4 times as a team during past quarterly workshops. And it really helps to identify what parts of your job, which hats that you wear at the office do you enjoy the most? Which ones are worth spending your time on? And the goal is to eliminate the 3s and the 4s. eliminate those things that are either A, not important to you, or B, you're not good at, and particularly when both apply. And I think we can really say, oh, we're really good at a lot of tasks that we're really not particularly suited to do. I'm really great at filling out a limited driving privilege. Well, yeah, so is anybody that kind of can spend 10 minutes learning how to fill out a limited driving privilege. I'm really good at talking with clients. Really, I mean, are you returning phone calls all the time? Are you great with people on the phone? Are you trying to cut them off? Do you feel like you have enough time for everybody? I think there are certain tasks where we can lie to ourselves and say, "Oh, I'm particularly great at this task," when we are not. And this has been something that has been a real place of humiliation. I would say humility comes from humiliation to some extent, and I would say this is a place of humiliation for me, and has taught me a lot of humility, because there's not many tasks that I am particularly good at, or at least that I am not, that I'm better at than somebody else that could kind of step into this role. I think we kind of make up this idea that we're the only person that can get this particular thing done. And so, is it important to you? A long time back, at the office, I was asking every attorney on our team to write blogs. From my perspective, man, if we have 4, 5, 6 attorneys writing regular blogs, we're going to have so much more content that we can put up on the website, and it's going to just really improve our SEO, and it's going to get more clients to give us a call, and it's going to benefit everybody. And so I was juiced about this, and I liked writing blogs. I like creating marketing content, and I found out pretty quickly, and this was actually pretty shocking to me, that most people don't like that. And it was shocking, not in a bad way, that it's, everybody should love writing blogs. But I think in my brain, because I liked it, it was something where it's like, well, everybody else will enjoy doing this too. And it was like pulling teeth to get these blogs from other attorneys on the team, for the most part, because there wasn't buy-in. This was not something that these other attorneys found engaging. This was taking away from time that they could be spending doing the things that they wanted to do, communicating with clients, being in the courtroom. This was a burden. And so again, it was one of these things where it was like, man, I can't believe that this is something that, hey, not everybody enjoys doing. And I've been able to do this in my own practice so much. There are so many tasks where I can look at that I spend my time regularly, and I say, that's honestly not something that I enjoy doing. So the question becomes, how can you fire yourself? How can you replace yourself on these particular tasks? You need to get off of the things that don't engage you. You need to stop doing the things that aren't bringing you joy, that aren't bringing fulfillment. You need to fire yourself at it. If you suck at it, you should fire yourself. That's what any competent law firm owner would do. If somebody was not good at something, they would say, well, let's find somebody else that can do this better. And as the owner of your firm, in those areas where you are not particularly suited to this individual task, it's time to replace yourself. It's time to be the harsh but good boss that says in the mirror, I'm sorry, but I've got to let you go. There's other people that are better suited to perform this particular task. And again, I think the ego wants to pretend that we are so great at, this plethora of tasks that we have to do, and all these different hats that we wear at the office, when in reality, there's a lot of people out there that could just do that thing better than we can. So go through those daily, weekly, and monthly tasks that you have to do, and figure out which ones bring you joy and which ones you're good at, and then outsource everything else. Outsource everything else. So that is solution number one, is to fire yourself from stuff that you suck at and to fire yourself from things that don't bring you joy. And if they don't bring you joy and you suck at them, then why in the heck are you doing that stuff right now? Like get somebody else to do that. There is plenty of people out there, as sucky a job as you might see something as, that would love to do that job. Go back to the blog example. For some people, this is like the most ridiculous waste of time, not something they want to spend their time at. There's tons of people out there that would love to write your blogs for you. Go find somebody to write your blogs. If you don't find QuickBooks particularly interesting, and you're trying to do a good job of tracking expenses and figuring out big picture of what your finances look like at the office, go get an accountant. I mean, it's this is what people go to school for. They want to help with this. Get yourself off of those tasks that you stink at, that somebody else can do probably better than you and also enjoys doing. They actually want to do this task. This is what they have trained for. So that is solution number one. Solution number two, which is something that we've talked about regularly on the podcast, is step away from the business. Step away from the law regularly to assess your law firm. You've got to get outside of yourself. And that's what this exercise really does. When you step back, when you detach and you look at where you are spending your time on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, when you detach, you can determine how to best move forward. And so this is something that you've got to set aside regular time for. Working on your business includes looking at places that you need to lead yourself, that you need to fire yourself. That's part of being a good business owner, is finding the places that you can maximize your time investment, maximize where you are spending your energy so that you can have the highest joy that can be had when it comes to the practice of law. So again, solution number one, identify your daily, weekly, monthly tasks, assign those numbers that I talked about, and in answering the two questions: is it important to you, and are you good at it? And then eliminate the 3s and 4s. And then finally, step away from the practice of law regularly, so that you can detach and assess where you can find more fulfillment in the profession. So that is task burnout. Hey, podcast listeners, I want to briefly interrupt today's episode to invite you to join me at the inaugural Freedom Fighter Summit in Asheville this October. This in-person only event is designed for growth-minded lawyers determined to take their criminal defense practice to the next level. Due to the size of the summit's venue, there are a limited number of seats available. Don't miss out on the incredible lineup of speakers and spectacular networking opportunity that this summit provides. For more details, visit www.miniclaw.com/summit. Enter the promo code NCDWIGUY, all lowercase, all one word, at checkout for $150 off your summit ticket. Look forward to seeing you there. Now back to the show. The next type of burnout is people burnout. So I think people burnout can come from, honestly, a lot of different places. We're going to kind of focus on 3 kind of broad categories, and that is opposing counsel. So for me as a criminal defense lawyer, maybe I talk about DAs and or judges, clients, and then your team, your employees or partners or whoever it might be that you people-wise are working with. Again, people burnout can come from other sources, but that we're just going to look at these 3 categories. So I can remember early on in my profession, and I'm not going to mention the DA or the county that this was in, but early on in my profession, I went to a county outside of the one that I live and regularly practice in to handle a driving with revoked license ticket, minor traffic ticket. And I had probably the worst experience in dealing with a district attorney that I've ever had in terms of gauging with another human being. The way that this attorney talked to me and talked to other people in the courtroom was constantly slinging insults that were not funny at other people in the courtroom, was constantly making people's lives in the courtroom miserable. Basically, he failed to honor a agreement that I had come to with another DA in the same office. It just start to finish was a miserable human being to work with. And so here's the ultimate deal with that. I could keep going back out to that county and have the same experience and be like, look, I'm making money doing this. I'm trying to take care of my family. This was early on. I mean, I was desperate for cases. I'm trying to take care of my family, try to build my practice. I'm trying to build my client base. And so these cases are important. And I basically looked at it and said, this is not worth the mental frustration of coming to this location anymore. And so I stopped going there. And at the end of the day, this is something that we all need to regularly assess. You may not be in this position because this might be your home county, or again, I understand in terms of desperation for cases. No matter how long you've been practicing law, we need to obviously make a living and provide for our families. And so these are real questions. I'm not trying to downplay this, but at the end of the day, you get to make a choice as to the location that you practice, the types of cases that you will handle, what practice areas you are going to cover. You get to make all those determinations. If you're taking on family cases and those cases burn you out, don't take them anymore. We stopped. We took family cases for a while, wasn't bringing us joy, didn't serve our mission. You can make money doing it, didn't work. It didn't align with our values. And I'm not saying we'll never take on family law cases again in the future, but it was one of those identity questions that we had to ask as a firm. Do we want to spend our time doing this type of work? Is this type of work bringing us joy, or is this type of work bringing us anxiety, frustration, leading us down the path to burnout? Do I like going to this particular county? Knowing that the person that's going to be on the other side of the table is potentially, going to is just a miserable human being and wants to ruin the day of every other person in the courtroom. Do I want to step foot into that courtroom? Do I want to be a part of that culture? Again, this may be something that is not always avoidable, but I think we can all experience this. And we've got to maybe ask ourselves if the DA is looking at us every time we come up to them with a traffic ticket and thinking that same thing. Oh man, here comes that miserable person again. Like how much do you think that they want to talk to you about the case that you're going to present if you're the miserable person that is coming to them to ask a favor and is bringing a black cloud with you as you go up to them? These are real questions that we need to look at. And so, solution number one on this front is assess the locations that you practice in, assess the courtrooms that you practice in, assess the practice areas that you handle, assess the type of cases that you handle. Are these cases that are bringing you joy? Is this a location that is bringing you joy to practice in, or is it causing misery? Is it causing frustration? Is it causing anxiety? These are all questions that you have to ask and answer honestly, and then decide, is it worth losing money in order for my happiness, my fulfillment, my joy to be greater? There's a cost value that goes into those type of questions. And I do think that at the end, if you're a more fulfilled person, you will make that up in terms of the finances. The cost value is going to win in the end, because you will avoid burnout and go at the law and at your law practice with a more creative brain. You'll be better for your clients, who will then go spread the word on your behalf. So I think at the end of the day, if you avoid miserable situations and therefore avoid taking on that misery yourself, you're going to be financially better off. But these are hard questions to answer in the moment. Same thing when it comes to clients. I think this is one of the major places that can cause burnout. And how often are we complaining about our clients? Do we sit around with other lawyers in the kind of break room, basically talking about what miserable people that we represent, and complaining about this client did this, or that client won't leave me alone? Are we fulfilled by representing our clients, or do we see our clients as a burden? I think that poor attorney-client relationships in the criminal justice realm leads to a ton of burnout for criminal defense lawyers. And so again, question to ask on this front is, am I happy? Am I fulfilled with the clients that I am blessed to serve? Is this, again, causing me frustration? Is this causing me anxiety, or am I getting my joy from these interactions? Because if you're a criminal defense lawyer and you're not getting joy from these interactions, you may want to look at a different practice area. For us, that was the case with family law. We were just not getting joy out of those type of cases, and that was primarily due to the clients themselves. And there wasn't a connection on our end to this being purposeful and meaningful work. And again, that's not to say that there's not meaning and purpose from those type of cases, but for us as a firm, for our culture, it was not jiving. And so it was creating a lot of stress that was just not necessary. So ask yourself, am I taking on too many clients? Am I taking on the wrong kind of clients in terms of the specific practice area? I think one thing that a lot of criminal defense lawyers do is they just don't charge enough for their services. And so they're constantly trying to take on more and more clients. And if they would charge a reasonable fee for the work that they are doing, they could have fewer clients and get the same number bottom line. That would lead to happier lives, less stress, more fulfillment, more opportunity to work on those clients' cases and to communicate with those clients more regularly. So this idea that volume is always better is just a myth. It's a lie. It doesn't mean you shouldn't create a practice that is volume-based or constantly be trying to figure out how to take on more cases if you can handle those. But there have been times when marketing companies have reached out to me, and they basically will use this kind of like language to try to hook you in. A marketing company will call me and say, could you handle 10 more DUI cases a month? Could you take on 10 new clients a month? If I told you today that I could get you 5 new traffic charges by the end of the week, how would that sound to you? They'll ask these kind of questions because they want you. They're thinking, of course, this attorney is going to want 10 more DUI cases. And there have been times when I said, no, I'm not interested in actually taking on new cases. I've got plenty of work on my plate. Now that may sound crazy to that marketing company. It may sound crazy to the people listening in on this podcast, but you don't have an endless amount of time. And so if you just trying to stuff more and more cases into your schedule and you're not expanding in terms of other people at your office or additional help, then you're basically either creating longer work hours for yourselves, or you're creating shortcuts on clients that you already have and on the future clients that you're going to get retained on. So we have to ask these legitimate questions of how much joy am I getting out of these client interactions? And I love talking to clients. I love working with people. It's what makes the law interesting. I mean, just a bunch of cases floating around out there and these legal theories, that's fun. Like, I like doing the mental gymnastics. I got my philosophy background. I mean, I can talk, let's work this thing to the logical conclusion all day long, but it's people at the end of the day that I enjoy going to bat for. I love the clients that we represent at the office. And so if you're not finding that connection, if you're not finding that joy from your clients, it's likely either A, because you're in the wrong practice area or in the wrong industry altogether. We're in the service industry. So we've got to look for a place where we want to serve. Are these the type of clients that I want to spend my valuable time working on? And for us at our firm, yes, this is the people that we are designed to help, that we want to help, that it's our purpose to help. So maybe you're in the wrong practice area, maybe you're in the wrong industry, or maybe you've just taken on too many cases. More is not always better. It can be. And I think growing is a great thing for almost every law firm out there. So I'm a huge proponent of growth. But, are you in a position to grow? Are you in a position to help additional people? If you're not, you're likely going to be setting yourself up for failure, setting yourself up for burnout. Finally, team. One other solution on the client front. When it comes to client contact, I think one thing that firms fail at that this can really help address is, from a burnout perspective, is setting parameters for client contact. If I think some people often wonder, why is this client calling me at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night? Why on God's green earth would this person believe that they could call me at this time? Call at 6 o'clock in the morning, call 15 times throughout the week. Well, here's a question to ask yourself. Have you had a conversation with a client that hires you about when client communication is going to occur? Do you have a weekly time where you are scheduled to call clients back? Do you tell clients that? Do you tell clients, I return phone calls from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock on Friday afternoons? I can be reached by text. I can be reached by email, and I will respond to those messages within 24 hours. But if you want to set up a time to speak with me in the office or time to speak with me over the phone, I can give you 20 minutes on this particular Friday afternoon. It's not really that crazy for a client to call you whenever, if you haven't told them when they can call you. Maybe it's some sort of like bad etiquette to just be calling people, at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. I mean, that may be, kind of like bad social etiquette. But until you've told the client when you are going to be available, then if they call you whenever, you can't get excited about that because you've not set parameters of when client communication is designed to occur. So make sure you do that. Make sure that is part of your onboarding process with the client to tell them, here's how we are going to communicate. If you want to set up a time to talk with me, here's when I'm going to be available. If you do that, you will be shocked at the amount of free time that you have, also about the amount of time that you are spending playing telephone tag with clients. As you call them back and leave a voicemail and they call you back and leave a voicemail. If you have a set time to talk to people, it's going to be a lot easier to make sure that both people are, ready and mentally in on the conversation. So that's a huge place that I think we can really minimize burnout when it comes to client communication, and something that is relatively easy to implement. Finally, number 3, your team. So under the people burnout section, your team, is this somebody that you want to work with? What is the feeling when you get a call from this person on your team, or they walk into your office? Do you get excited, or do you immediately feel stressed out? Do you immediately feel anxiety every time you see that person's number popping up on your phone? When that person walks into your office, do you go, oh my gosh, this is going to be, what does this person want to talk about now? Or is it like, yes, I get to have this conversation? Because let me tell you, if you want to avoid burnout, then working with the right people is maybe the biggest thing that you can do to go from burnout to on fire passionate with your work. Having the right team, the right partners, the right employees, the right teammates. If you can get the right team on board with you, it's going to be huge. And that's why we focus so much at the office now on hiring for culture as opposed to hiring for basically like task oriented hiring. We don't hire somebody because they can complete XYZ task. That's like the starting point. That's the baseline. Like, if you're hiring somebody as an associate attorney because they have a JD, you're hiring the wrong person. Because they've passed the bar, you're hiring the wrong person. That is like the baseline. Yes, they have to have passed the bar to be an associate attorney. So great. I'm glad that, they've done that. But, just because somebody has been on mock trial team, has been on moot court, has, gotten the Cali Award for excellence in their, evidence class or whatever it might be. Is that a sign that this person is going to be a great trial lawyer? Yes. But is it much more important that they're good with human beings? Yes, infinitely more important that they're good with human beings, both with your clients as well as with you and the other people that are on your team. So we have much more moved in the kind of orientation of let's get the right person on the team. Let's get the person with the right attitude, with the right energy, with the right culture fit onto the team. And then we can teach them what they need to learn in the courtroom, at the desk, in terms of communications on the phone, in terms of software that we have. All that stuff is teachable. It's really not that hard. Most people are relatively bright when it comes to learning these kind of new processes, procedures, software, whatever it might be. There's really not that much of a challenge in teaching these things if you've got a good training program, but you can't teach attitude. You can't teach culture fit. So hire people you want to spend time with. That is solution number 3. Hire people that you want to spend time with. So we've talked about task burnout, people burnout, and now we're going to talk about purpose burnout. This is a quote from John Maxwell. A difficult time can be more readily endured if we retain the conviction that our existence holds a purpose, a cause to pursue, a person to love, a goal to achieve. So how do we avoid burnout? Well, when we are going through a difficult time, if we have set our mission in the right place, if we have a great why in terms of the reason that we come into the office every day, we are going to be able to endure those times of trial and difficulty. This all goes back to beginning with the end in mind. This is a famous story that I would just quickly read. This is the businessman and the fisherman. One day, a fisherman was lying on a beautiful beach with his fishing pole propped up in the sand and his solitary line cast out into the sparkling blue surf. He was enjoying the warmth of the afternoon sun and the prospect of catching a fish. About that time, a businessman came walking down the beach, trying to relieve some of the stress of his workday. He noticed the fisherman sitting on the beach and decided to find out why this fisherman was fishing instead of working harder to make a living for himself and his family. You aren't going to catch many fish that way, said the businessman to the fisherman. You should be working rather than lying on the beach. The fisherman looked up at the businessman, smiled, and replied, "And what will my reward be?" "Well, you could get bigger nets and catch more fish," was the businessman's answer. "And then what will my reward be?" asked the fisherman, still smiling. The businessman replied, "You will make money and you will be able to buy a boat, which will then result in larger catches of fish." "And then what will my reward be?" asked the fisherman again. The businessman was beginning to get a little irritated with the fisherman's questions. "You can buy a bigger boat and hire some people to work for you," he said. "And then what will my reward be?" repeated the fisherman. The businessman was getting angry. "Don't you understand? You can build up a fleet of fishing boats, sail all over the world, and let all your employees catch fish for you." Once again, the fisherman asked, And then what will my reward be? The businessman was red with rage and shouted at the fisherman, "Don't you understand that you can become so rich that you will never have to work for your living again? You could spend all the rest of your days sitting on the beach looking at the sunset. You won't have a care in the world." The fisherman, still smiling, looked up and said, "And what do you think I'm doing right now?" Beginning with the end in mind, right? What is it that we are building our practice for? Why are we doing what we are doing? If you want to, here's a little self plug. Go back and check out episode number 1 on the podcast, which is Firm Culture Begins with Why. About a 15-minute episode. It's one that I frequently point to. If you have not listened to that episode, go take a listen, because that is the starting point. Understanding why you do what you do is the most important question that you will ever have to answer. If you've got a purpose, you can endure these times of trial that often, for people without purpose, end up ultimately leading to burnout. You got to identify how you are specifically making a difference in the lives of your clients, in the lives of the criminal defense bar as a whole. With that, here's, I guess, a explicit warning, coming up in case there's kids in the car or something. But do you have a bullshit job? Do you have a real job, or do you have a bullshit job? A bullshit job is a job that you don't believe in the purpose. You show up in, you clock into work in, and you work out every day, and you don't believe that anything you are doing in the office is making a difference in the world, is making a difference in people's lives. You can see this so much. There's so many people that have bullshit jobs. They walk in, they punch in their time card. They, spend their 3 hours, doing this task. They take their lunch break. They come back. They work a couple more hours. They go to the office party or whatever it might be. Finish up their final task of the day. Clock out at 5, and boom. That's it. It's paycheck based work. If you're just working for a paycheck, then you have a bullshit job. Go find a real job if that's the situation. Don't stay in your bullshit job, because there is no purpose. There is no fulfillment that you're going to find in a bullshit job. You have to have an impact on the world. You have to have some sort of meaning to how you are spending your time. Your brain can only handle so much work in a bullshit environment before it just says, like, this is so crazy that I'm spending my time doing this, and getting angry about it and frustrated. And maybe some people can really do that for a long time, and that frustration builds, and it's just like, my heart is not in it. And when your heart is not in it, that becomes problematic in a massive way, not only for your own mental health, but for everybody that your business touches. People can sense when you don't care. If you don't care, you shouldn't be doing what you are doing. So go find a real job, or find the reality within your job. That's probably even better. You don't always have to go grass is greener on the other side. Decide how your firm is different. What is it that your unique marketing proposition is? What is your legal business uniquely bringing to the legal marketplace? So identify your mission. That is the solution to this problem, is identify your mission, whether that is in your current practice or in a real job somewhere else. Identify what is driving you. So again, hope this podcast has been helpful. Again, we've talked about task burnout. We've talked about people burnout. We have talked about purpose burnout. The goal for all of us as a criminal defense bar community should be to lift one another up in what we are doing, to help each other find more engagement, more of a sense of love, joy in what it is that we were doing. That's where a criminal defense bar as a whole is really thriving, is where we are elevating one another in our particular legal practices, and elevating the product that we bring to our clients, elevating the service that we bring to our communities. Looking forward to elevating with you all, and look forward to speaking with you again next time. If you found the information in this podcast to be valuable, I simply ask that you pay it forward and share this podcast with another member of the legal community. Also, if you would leave us a rating or a review on whatever platform you are listening on, I would greatly appreciate it.